My name is Ranjay and I'm starting a new channel called DNA Learning Center. So, in this, I'm going to discuss about concepts related to physics and mathematics. And today, we are going to start our first lesson. The first lesson called light. Light is, we do know about light. Then what is a light? So what is a light? And we know that light is a form of energy. Yes, it is a form of energy. Without sunlight we cannot see anything, so that light is a form of energy. Then what are all do we know about light? Light, it has dual nature. It contains a dual nature. And what are the nature it has? It has two things. What is that? One is electromagnetic. So, electromagnetic, which means electric and magnetic. So it contains two waves. One which is electric wave, another one is magnetic wave. So it is called as a dual nature. And also light contains a small energy packets. So small energy packets, they are called photons. Okay. So this is the basic things which we need to know about light. Light is a form of energy and light is an electromagnetic wave. Electromagnetic wave, in the sense, light contains both electric wave and also magnetic wave. And also it has a small energy packets called photon. And also velocity of light. What is the velocity of the light? So light moves at a speed of 3 into 10 power 8 meter per second. So light moves at a speed of 3 into 8 10 power meter per second. So which means it travels 3 lakh kilometer for 1 second. Okay. So these are all the basic things which we know about light. Next, so light is a form of energy. And then what all the light can do? Light, the important thing is, the light enables us to see image. Okay, so it enables us to see the image. If you want to see any of the image, the primary source must be a light. If in the absence of light, we cannot see anything. So all the things will be blurred and black. So if you do not have any source of light. Suppose you imagine there is no source of light is around you. If there is no sunlight, no moonlight, no tube lights or anything, we cannot able to see any of the image. If you want to see any of the image, then what is the primary source that we need is light. So light enables us to see the image. Then how do we see the image? Let us see. How do we see the image? When the source of light must fall on the object. And that object has to reflect the light. Then we can able to see the object. So which means if you want to see any kind of image, what is the things must be there? The light has to fall on the object and the object has to reflect the light. If the object doesn't reflect the light, we cannot see any of the image. If you want to see the image, the object has to reflect the image. Okay. Now, let us take an example of how we take a plain glass. Plain glass. You have already seen plain glass. Plain glass in the sense plain glass. Plain glass. This is normal transparent plain glass. Why? Why can't we see image on the plain glass? So when the light ray falls, when the light ray falls on the object, and the object has to reflect the light. Since I have taken the plain glass, it is since the plain glass is a transparent material. Transparent. So transparent. Transparent means which will allow the light rays to pass through this. So such objects are called transparent. What are transparent material? The material which allow the light rays to pass through this. Light rays to pass through in it. Okay? So since glass is a transparent material, and whatever the light ray that the object has reflected, all the light ray will passes through this. So we cannot able to see any image on the plain glass. If you want to see any image on the plain glass, what must be the things we have to do? We have to take the plain glass. For the plain glass, we have to paint it on one side. So when you paint on one side, we call this surface as polished surface. Polished surface. So how do they paint? They will take a chemical called silver. Using the silver, we are going to paint on one side of the plain glass. When you paint one side of the plain glass, this plain glass now will not remain as a plain glass. This will get converted to plain mirror. Okay? So now it will convert it to plain mirror. And one side, whatever that we have polished, is called as polished surface, and another side is called as reflecting surface. Okay? So now a mirror will contain two kinds. One is called polished surface and reflecting surface. Now let us study how does the image will form on the plain mirror. Now we come to know that how does the plain glass is converted to plain mirror. When you take the plain glass, if you polish on the one side, then it gets converted to plain mirror. Fine. So now, before we talk about how does the image forms, we have to know about, there are two important things. What are they? We are going to learn about two things. One is reflection, another one is refraction. So, in this chapter we are going to learn about two things, reflection and refraction. Based on those two topics only, the entire chapter is depends on. So now, let us learn what is a reflection. So we all know this is a primary question. So we say that what is a reflection? We all play with the mirror. So reflection means it is bouncing back. So what do we say in the reflection? So what do we say? That the bouncing back of the light ray, the bouncing back of the light ray into the same medium. So, for example, we are allowed a light rays to fall on the mirror. So, let us take. So, we have taken a mirror. So, for this mirror, we allow a light rays to fall on the mirror. Obviously, what happens? It gets reflected. So this is called reflection. So what is a reflection? The bouncing back of light into the same medium is called reflection. The bouncing back of light into the same medium is called reflection. And here we have to learn the totally two important laws. So two important laws we have to learn, and two laws of reflection. Important as far as the exam point of view. So they will ask you, what are the two laws of reflection? So two laws of reflection. So here we will cover it. And before that, we need to know there are some things. What are they and what is this light ray? So now, yes. So this light ray, hitting the mirror, and it gets reflected. So on this is a plane mirror, and you know polished surface and the reflecting surface. Now the light ray will hit the mirror and it gets reflected. And this mirror we call incident ray. Okay, this light ray is called as incident ray. Then I ask you the question: what is an incident ray? So, what is an incident ray? The light ray which is coming towards the surface. Okay, so just see that this is the surface. Where this is the surface. So here, this light ray is coming towards the surface. This light ray is coming towards the surface. So that light ray we call it as incident ray. So what is an incident ray? The light ray which is coming towards the surface is called as incident ray. And this light ray, so what do we call this light ray? Is called as reflected ray. Okay. So what is a reflected ray? Obviously, if this is coming towards the surface, this is going away from the surface. Because this is the surface we need to know. Okay. So the light ray which is going away from the surface. Okay. So the light ray which is going away from the surface is called as reflected ray. The light ray which is coming towards the surface is called as incident ray. Okay, fine. Now we are going to draw an imaginary line. Okay. So now we are going to draw an imaginary line. So this is called as normal. Okay. So then what is a normal? So what is a normal? An imaginary straight line. An imaginary straight line. An imaginary straight line drawn perpendicular to the surface. Okay? So this is called as normal. And this is called as normal. Okay. So what is a normal? An imaginary straight line. We are going to draw an imaginary straight line which is drawn perpendicular. To the surface. And this is the surface you can see. So this is it is drawn at an angle of 90 degree. So this is called as normal. So usually whenever you do okay, fine. So now we'll continue. And you can see that. So this is called an incident ray, and this is reflected ray, and normal. Usually normal will not be there. So normal is what? An imaginary straight line. I am going to draw an imaginary straight line, and this is called normal. Okay, fine. Now, so after that, so now this angle, okay, so this is an incident ray, and this angle is called angle of incidence. Okay, so we have taken a plane mirror. In that mirror, we have an incident ray and a reflected ray, and this is okay, fine. Continue. So now, and this angle is called angle of incidence. So, and it is represented by I cap. What is angle of incidence? Angle of incidence, the angle between incident ray to normal. Okay. So what is an incident angle of incidence? The angle between, you know that this is an incident ray. So if this is an incident ray, and this angle will call as angle of incidence. The angle between incident ray and normal, this angle we call it as angle of incidence. And this angle we call it as angle of reflection. Angle of reflection. What is angle of reflection? The angle between reflected ray. Angle between reflected ray to. Okay, so then I asked you in the exams, so what is this, what is this called, and what is this called? Incident ray is represented by I, and reflected ray is represented by R, okay, and this is, you have to remember that you have to just put arrow mark while representing any ray. Put arrow mark, and it's represented by R, reflected ray. So reflected ray is represented by R, and angle of incidence is represented by I cap, and angle of refraction is represented by R. So now we will learn two laws of reflection. Okay, so what are the two laws of reflection? Very important as far as the exam point of view. So what are the two laws of reflection? First law says incident ray, reflected ray, incident ray, reflected ray, and normal all lie on the same plane. Okay, so this is the first law. What does the first law says? The incident ray, reflected ray, and normal all lie on the same plane, which means incident ray, and here the incident ray and reflected ray and normal all will be in one plane. So one plane means, if you want to just observe this diagram, when you observe this, and you can see here, see, it is touching the mirror. This is the mirror, and this is sheet, and you can see that it is touching the sheet, and this is also touching the sheet. Okay, so which means incident ray, okay, and incident ray and reflected ray and normal. All will be on the one plane. All will be on one plane means what I can do means I can touch all the three at the same time. Okay, so that is called the first law. What is that first law says? Incident ray, reflected ray, normal, all lying on the same plane. Lying on the same plane means see it has just sent through the paper and it is going through. This is an incident ray. It has sent through the paper and it is get reflected. So it's going back through the paper. I mean it is touching the paper surface, which means we can say and this is a normal. So all will be in one plane. All will be in one plane. And the second law says, and see this is an incident ray and this is an reflected ray. Fine. And this is a normal. So now this angle is called as angle of incidence and this angle is called as angle of reflection. Okay. So second law it says that angle I will be equal to angle R. So which means, so it says that the angle between the angle of incidence is always equals to angle of reflection. So the second law says that the angle of incidence is equal to the angle of reflection. Okay, that means I cap is equals to R cap. So this I cap, okay, this is the I cap. I cap will always be equal to R cap. That is, if this angle is 30 degree, I can say that this angle also will be 30 degree. So angle of incidence will be equal to angle of reflection. If it is make it wider, like if it is 60 degree, the angle also gets wider and it will become 60 degree. So these are the very important two laws. What are there is the first law says that the incident ray, reflected ray, normal, all lying on the same plane. Second law says that the angle of incidence is equals to angle of reflection. Now we will proceed. How does the image forms through a plane mirror? Okay, how does the image? So now let us take this straight line as a mirror, and this is the polished surface. And so next, how does the image forms through plane mirror? So let us take a wall. Wall is placed in front of the mirror, and now we have sun rays. The sun rays will fall on the object, and the object will reflect the sunlight. So most of the light rays will fall on the object, on the mirror. Many light rays will incidence on the mirror, but I have taken only a few. So now this is the incident ray, and it gets reflected, and it gets reflected, and you can just angle of incidence, and you can just say that this angle of reflection. So like that. Fine. Okay. Now what happens? These are called reflected light ray. Reflected light ray. Okay. So these light rays will produce backwards. They will produce backwards, and they appear to come from behind the mirror. Okay, so they appear to come from behind the mirror, and these reflected rays produce backward, and they meet up virtually. So virtually means they're not coming from behind the mirror, they are backward production of the reflected light ray. These reflected light rays are there, no? They are produced backward to form an image. So such image we call as virtual image. Okay? What is a virtual image? The image formed by backward production of reflected light rays. Okay? So, then I ask you, what is a virtual image? So, if they ask you the virtual image, so very simple. What is a virtual image? The image formed by backward production of reflected light. So, since these are the reflected light, right? And this reflected light, right, it produces backward it produces and forms an image. And such image is called as an virtual image. And you can also give another definition for virtual image, that is the image which cannot be caught on the screen. Okay? So what is an virtual image? The virtual image is the image which cannot be caught on the screen. So now what happens? So now we are just seeing the image. So now we are just seeing through our eye. Okay? So just we are just seeing our image. So this image is a virtual image. This we can only be seen. Okay? So we cannot be caught on the screen, and such images are called as virtual image. And this is how the image formation through plane mirror. Okay? So it is an example of how does the image will form through plane mirror. Okay? So now next important question will be the last. What is an important question is properties of the image formed on plane mirror. Okay? So there are some properties. So it contains. So what are the properties of the image formed by a plane mirror? And you are seeing that, and this is the image. And what are the properties it has? So the first property is the image is always virtual and erected. Okay? So image is always virtual and erected. So you know the meaning of virtual image, which I already explained you. The image formed by the backward production of the reflected light ray, and that is called as a virtual image. Now we will see the meaning of what do you mean by erected. So erected meaning is upright. So upright in the sense, say, suppose whenever you stand in front of it, so suppose you just see that you will keep the image like this. Okay, so suppose the image of a candle in front of the mirror you will keep. So how do you see the image of the candle? So we will just see like this. See. So this is called as erected. The meaning is called erected or upright. Okay. So suppose if you keep the object like this, And if the image is like this, so okay, fine. If the image is like this, and such image is called as inverted. Okay, so now we got the meaning of erected and inverted. Erected is if the object is like this, if the image is ulta, then it is called as inverted. If the object is like this and the image is also like this, it is called as erected. Okay, or upright. Okay, fine. Now, I will just proceed. Next, second property. What is the second property? The image is always laterally inverted. Okay? So laterally inverted. Laterally inverted means, it is an inverted. Inverted means ulta. So laterally means straight ulta. So horizontally it is ulta. So for example, whenever you just stand in front of the mirror and when you raise your right hand, and what do you see the image? So what do you see the image? So what do you see? The image will raise its left hand. Okay? So this is called as laterally inverted. Whenever you just stand in front of the mirror and if you raise your left hand, the image will raise its right hand. And that is called as laterally inverted. And this is the second property of the image formed by a triangle. So laterally, the image is laterally inverted. Laterally means straight. Lateral means straight. Straight to straight is ulta. So next, the third property. So what is the third property? The image size. The image size is equal to the object size. Okay? Now, we'll come back to this diagram. So, image size. So, just see that it's an object. It's an object. And this is an image. This is an image. And size of the object. You just see that however you have kept the size, the smaller one, your image also will be of the same size. It will not look even bigger or it will not look even smaller. So which means the object size is equals to image size. The object size is equals to image size. This is the third property. And the last property is the distance between object to mirror is equal to mirror to image. Okay, the last property I'll discuss here. So this distance and whatever the distance between object to mirror, whatever the distance are there between object to mirror is equal to mirror to image. So this distance. Okay, so from this we come to know that so whenever you stand in front of the mirror, whenever you walk in front of the mirror, and you can see that image also walks in front of you, right? It also comes front. So whenever you go backward, image also goes back. So these are the very important 4 properties that you usually ask in the exams. So what are the 4 properties? The image is always virtual and erected. The image is always laterally inverted. The object size is equals to image size. And the last property is the distance between object to mirror is equals to mirror to object. So these are about a straight plane mirror, and this is what we want to